was indeed Berber. And so Arabs arrived in northwestern Africa as early as the 7th century, but people estimate that around the 13th century, the majority of Berbers adopted Islam. Some learned the Arabic language and were assimilated into Arab culture. Yet many Berber groups continued to speak their own languages, which they speak today, which are referred to as Tamazight. So people don't use the word Berber, actually. So much in Morocco is a name given to them by outsiders because it derives from the Roman word barbarous, which means barbarian. The Romans referred to anyone who did not speak Latin as a barbarian. So Berbers today prefer the word Amaziren, which means the free people, or Amazir is the singular form, free person, or they most typically refer to themselves by the name of their particular ethnic group. And so a group with whom I worked a great deal was called the Ait Ata, Ait meaning people of, and Ata being the name of the founding ancestor of the group. But Berber is used very often, and it's the term I believe that is the most familiar, and I'm going to use it in this lecture, but I just wanted to make you aware of the terms Imazir and Amazir. So as expressed in Taus's poem, the survival of this ancient culture from the past and into the present has largely been due to its association with women. So I first went to Morocco in 1993, and I decided that I was looking, for a dissertation topic, and I wanted to learn what I could learn about Berber art. And I realized that in order to really understand Berber art, I needed to understand women's lives, because women are the artists in Berber societies. Women in rural areas make ceramics by hand. They fire them in a pit or a clay oven, and they later paint them with geometric decorations. And women really pride themselves on creating items that they'll use in their households that they sometimes will sell to local markets. Textiles, as we saw in the exhibition, hold a prominent place in Berber art across all of Morocco. Women comb, spin, and dye wool taken from sheep and goats that they raise themselves, and they weave the wool on upright looms into elaborately patterned textiles. So wool is believed to have considerable baraka, or blessings, and some of this baraka is then transferred to the weavers themselves. So Berber women who work wool achieve a lot of respect within the society, and there's a saying that I often heard people repeat when I was in Morocco, that a woman who makes 40 carpets during her lifetime is guaranteed a passage into heaven after she dies. So women are said to metaphorically give life to a textile, and when the vertical threads, the warp threads, are attached to the loom, the textile is said to be born and to have a soul. The textile then moves through youth and maturity and old age as it's woven, and then when she finishes the textile, she cuts it from the loom, and then she splashes it with water and says a prayer, much like someone would do for the body of someone who had passed away. This personification of the textile underlies women's reproductive and creative powers, and by equating textiles with humans passing through the life cycle, reinforces women's roles in the preservation and propagation of Berber identity. So, everyone always asks me, what do these motifs mean? So there are certain motifs that we see repeated throughout Morocco, suggesting that they have this really deep historical and cultural significance. So most of the textiles refer either to fertility or protection from the evil eye. So the zigzag pattern, for example, is said by weavers to represent a sickle, scissors, or a saw that's capable of popping or bursting the evil eye. Women associate the diamond and then the triangle, or diamond, with mirrors or eyes that can protect against the evil eye, deflecting. So the idea is that you hold up a mirror and the negative energy of the gaze pops away from you and back onto the person, so it protects you from harm. So these designs protect the weaver as well as the user of the textile. Since Berbers in rural Morocco associate wool with wealth, these motifs then protect everyone from jealousy. One of the things I noticed is very often I would go into a home where a woman was weaving a textile, and the loom was sort of hidden away in another room off to the side or in a corner. It wasn't really obvious because women like to sort of keep a low profile. They didn't really announce that they were making textiles to protect themselves from jealousy. The X design is often interpreted as representing two triangular fibula or silver brooches, once commonly worn by Berber women. So women wore fibula to hold their wraparound garments closed. So women in the past wore these really long rectangular pieces of fabric that they wrapped around their bodies and then held together with these fibula that had a sharp pin at the end. And so the sharp pin is capable of popping and bursting that evil light as well. So another question people often ask me are, what do the colors mean? I took this yesterday in the exhibition. And to illustrate the various colors that we see in Berber textiles. And when I started looking, I've looked at so many textiles over the years, and I started to notice that there's a pattern in the type of colors that people tend to use. Red, white, green, black, and often yellow. So these are some textiles from southeastern Morocco, and when I asked women the significance of the colors, they often equated the colors red, green, yellow, and black with the life cycle of familiar things in their natural environment. Some women told me that, oh yeah, these are the colors of dates as they ripen on the date palm tree. So we know Bahrain is a place of dates, right? So the date starts off being green, it turns to yellow, and then kind of this reddish color as it ripens, and then a darker brown, almost blackish color. So you can make an analogy between ripening dates and the blossoming of a girl's body into a woman. So it's another fertility symbol. Women also refer to these colors as the hues of henna. So henna, probably as everyone in this room knows, is green when it starts out, the leaves. Then it's pounded, right, to make a paste. It's applied to the skin, and then the skin, really good henna can dye the skin a black color, and then it fades to red, and then a sort of yellow orangey color. So the association of these colors with the natural life cycle also extends to the fertility of women and their ability to give life. That's demonstrated by the fact that Berber brides in rural Morocco are commonly dressed in the colors that you see here on your right: red, yellow, white, and green and black. So women also told me that the rainbow inspired their color palette. And of course the rainbow has many colors, but one of the interesting things I found out is that the name for rainbow in Tamazight, the Berber language, is Tizlit Anzar, which means bride of the rain. And until the 1980s, once or twice a year, Berber women commonly held Tizlit Anzar, the bride of the rain ceremonies. And what they would do is they would take a large wooden cooking ladle, dressed as a bride, and carry it around through the countryside from house to house and singing songs and asking the Anzar, which is the Amazigh word, the Berber word for rain, to fall. And local people would give grain and sugar and tea to these women, and they would all gather together and have a big party. It was very festive. And at the very end, they would take the bride, turn her upside down into a dry riverbed, and this is the idea that rain will fall. So I asked actually women to hold one